14.
Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Michelle Baeza. This is my very first podcast, and I've brought along with me my friend Jared Rogers and my new friend David Silverstein.
Hi everyone.
And we're going to talk about a few things today, but we wanted to start off first by introducing each other. And then we want to hear a little bit about David's passion, which is PadSplits, because I find it very fascinating, want to learn more about it. So,
Love it.
would you like to introduce yourself first, Jared?
Sure, I'll try to make it quick. I seem to like to talk a lot, but my background has been in mortgage for a little over 20 years. I've been a mortgage broker, lender, entrepreneur a few times in between, and just it's been most of my life. So I've been very grateful and successful with it. But aside from the market being the way it is, for mortgage, it was something that we definitely wanted to, or I wanted to look into, more about the investing side and how to acquire properties and notes and how to mix my knowledge of the last, 2 decades to being an investor as well. So that's what got me on the ride, roller coaster, if you will. And I've been looking into it almost a year now. I signed up for a lot of the classes and courses at the end of last year. That's me in a nutshell. Excellent. I could talk for about an hour or two about it, but I don't think we have that much time.
Yeah, and we live locally in Southern California, which is how we met.
Yeah.
Reached out as part of Project Forward. Hence one of the reasons we're on this podcast.
Yes, exactly. It made it really easy to get together
Right?
when we're down the street. So
Yeah.
And
I mean, this is my first meeting for Jared, but yeah, we're all local and sort of local in Southern California. At any rate, hello everyone, I'm Dave, and I guess for my short intro, what I'll do is this. I come from the tech industry. I did a lot of program and product management there, doing video games, web development, e-commerce, and several other industries. And it just felt like a giant hamster wheel where I had to keep running faster and faster, but I wasn't getting anywhere. So to me, it was come back to that entrepreneurial spirit I've always had and take control of my future. And to do that, I had to remember that not only have I started several businesses over the years, and I still run some of those today, I also used to be a landlord. I had a house. I rented it out for a while. I eventually sold it at a profit. Even though I did everything wrong, I still managed to be successful with that. And I always wanted to come back into it. But then COVID happened and I got really busy with whatever job I was at the time. And just things got a little off. So last year, when I saw my company going through changes, it was time to get that control back of my future. So I started looking around into the real estate investing world again, trying to find the right coach, the right program, the right community, landed on Pace Morby and his community. And I was like, this is it. This is the right one. And a few months ago, I joined up, started meeting lots of wonderful people like the two folks I'm here with today. And got myself some partners. We're doing short-term PML, transactional stuff in that company. And that's another company I have now. And we also do midterm rentals. And our biggest thing right now is we all realize PadSplits are a huge opportunity and a great investment. And I believe that's why the three of us are, or at least a part of why the three of us are here today to talk. So I think that's me in a nutshell, and let's take it from there.
excellent. Thank you for sharing. How do you manage all of those businesses? The way you said it, there's probably like 10.
I probably will be in like a year, but no, it's actually I have my wife and I run an acupuncture business here locally, but she does most of that. I just kind of handle the business side of that one. I'm a co-founder of a business in the textile industry, and I have partners there, and we collectively run that. So between those two, it's not that much of my time right now, but anything hits, and that could change, of course. And then I have my business, which is right there, Eagle Street Ventures. That's my personal real estate business. And then I have the other real estate business with my other partners that we all met in this community a few months ago. And that's the one that does the PML and the transactional lending. So it's really, right now, it's only about 4 businesses, but it's not too much. And my focus is on the real estate investing right now. with the other two businesses working alongside that, because I've run those for a while, so it's not too much trouble for me to find time to operate amongst all things. But yeah, it can get overwhelming. If I still had that W-2 job,
Right,
that would
right.
be rough. Anyway, yeah, so that's not too bad, but that's about it.
Well, let me ask you, maybe you could give a brief overview. What is a pad split, and like, how does it benefit the landlord and the tenant?
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever had a roommate before?
Yes.
Right? Presumably, most of us in our lives have had roommates, or if we live with, right, if we live with a significant other or we're married or whatever, we are living with roommates.
Right.
So, so it's like this. I'll give you my example. When I was in college, we didn't want to live on campus in our senior year, so we went and rented an apartment, which is what a lot of the kids did back in where I went to school. And we had a 2-in-1 apartment. So I had one bedroom, my roommate had the other. And I've seen scenarios where we had neighbors who were cramming 3, 4, 5 kids in a 2-bedroom. And the landlord just didn't know about it. And that's not the right way to do it. So what PadSplit does is it rents by the room in a similar kind of idea. And instead of cramming somebody's couch touring, somebody sleeping on the floor, 2 people in a bedroom like a dorm, it's not like that at all. What it actually is we say, all right, this house, for example, could have 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms in it today. We could rent it as such to a family or just a bunch of roommates. That's actually what I did when I first moved to California. I had 3 roommates and we all lived in a house. But PadSplit takes it a step further and says, well, what if we tried to solve a little bit of the affordable housing crisis while we're at it, and says, okay, we'll rent all 4 bedrooms out, but what's this living room? This living room is quite large. Why don't we split that into 2 bedrooms? The people we're renting to don't need it for that, so we'll make 2 more bedrooms out of that. Oh, this house has a garage. Well, that's a 1 or 2 car garage. That's 1 or 2 more bedrooms. And hey, there's some space for an extra bathroom in there. And why would they do that? Well, for one, the space is there, but because we're renting by the room, or PadSplit's renting by the room, and we're just, we're the host, we're the landlord in that scenario. What's going on there is you're renting to people who don't care about that. They don't need that. What they need is, I need a place for 3 months, for 6 months, maybe 9 months. I got to have it by work, or I need, it needs to be near the train or a bus line or something so I can get to work. But I don't want to pay that much money. That's kind of the market we're looking at there. And if you look at the comparison, it's like, if I could rent a room by the week for, say, $150, $160 a week, what are we talking there? 6, 7, maybe 800 a month. But in most markets, how much does a studio apartment go for? A lot more than that. So they're saving money. They're not committed to be there for a year, particularly if their job maybe migrates. Some markets, you got oil workers, they're only in town for 9 months. They're going to leave. They're going to go on the rig or something, right? Other places, you got people who their job changes every 6 months or so. So they don't want to have that commitment either. So between the cost savings that they get, the fact that they're getting what they need, they get a nice room and a nice house. It's near transportation if they need it. Maybe they have a car too. That's fine. There's just a lot of benefits for them. We're working with PadSplit, and we're making the houses much more affordable for them as well. And we're just taking a little chunk away from that crisis of affordable housing. I don't know how much either of you have heard of it, but I know I live in Irvine. Irvine's expensive. It is expensive here, right? I'm getting priced out of my own town because the rent just keeps going up and up and up. And we all live in California, right? And they changed the regulations and laws recently. So now you can have your rent raised like 10% a year. It's ridiculous. So if you look at PadSplit and then you look at a traditional long-term rental, it's like, well, let's look at the numbers here. It's like, hey, we're making it cheaper for people to live somewhere, get what they need, get what they want, but we're also making it more viable for other folks like me who want to buy properties, but also have an opportunity to make a little bit of money at that without having to wait 30 years to get it. So there's a lot of short, medium, and long-term benefits for everyone in that. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about what PadSplit is and what can be done with it.
And so comparing that to like an Airbnb or a midterm rental, right, on a furnished finder or something like that, it's obviously less expensive than an Airbnb, but Airbnb has the room scenario. Like, how does it compare to that, the Airbnb rooms, or on a furnished finder? Because
I think it's more midterm is what you're going, looking at, right?
Yeah.
well, you can do midterms on Airbnb,
Okay.
but like furnished finder, that's like the one for the nurses and stuff.
Oh,
So
gotcha, okay.
they would be a good candidate for a PadSplit as well, right?
Yeah. Not all midterm rentals are good for PadSplits and vice versa. It really depends on the property and the location. Like one of my business partners, she bought her first midterm rental she closed it about a month ago. And that location, not good for a PadSplit, but it is really good for a midterm rental. And the revenue you get from that is pretty good. Midterm rentals are good too. We do those also. Just some of us are just a little more focused on PadSplits. But going back to Airbnbs, PadSplit is a midterm rental. It's not a short-term rental, right? Like you have to rent at least 31 days to qualify.
Right.
But PadSplit's usually about 3 or more months, depending on the host and whatever PadSplit says for that market. So with Airbnb, I don't know much about their midterm rental program. I haven't looked into it, so I can't speak to that. But I'd be willing to learn if you have any knowledge to share there.
Well, I would have to say it's probably more expensive. Because they just relaunched that earlier this year, their Airbnb rooms. They're trying to get back to what they originally started in, is in the room sharing, right? And so they are putting some effort in marketing around that and trying to get back in that area. So I'd be interested to see what the cost comparison is. But these PadSplits, they're set up. You said you're working with the PadSplit organization, is that correct? Yeah. And so you work with them and get it set up to their specifications and what they recommend, and then you work with them to get the property listed as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So let me put a pin in that for one quick sec. So with Airbnb, again, happy to learn. I took a note while you were talking about that. I want to learn about what they do for midterm and renting by the room to do exactly what you were asking about, which is compare. As far as short-term rentals go, I mean, we all know the laws are changing around that everywhere, right? So when we looked at Airbnbs, we were like, even though these can cash flow crazy amounts, it's getting harder and harder to do them now,
right?
And harder to find good properties for them. So
and more expensive.
Yeah, and more expensive. And I think that's kind of why Airbnb, they were looking at the market too, and they're like, if things are shifting, we need to come up with a new plan. I'm not Airbnb. I can't speak to what their thinking is. I'm just saying that from my interpretation is what it looks like. Going back to PadSplit, yeah. So the way it works is you contact PadSplit, you just go to their website and you sign up and you say, I want to be a host. And then you interview with them sort of, and you just tell them what you're trying to do, what you're interested in. They'll tell you about all the markets. They will give you their sales pitch first. And when I signed up, I already researched everything I could find on YouTube, on the internet, on PadSplit. I looked at everything. I am a big analysis guy. So I did all that, and then I went and talked to them, which could have just been the first step, just go talk to them, right? But no, I went and did all that. I talked to them, and I'm like, I know everything they're telling me in their sales pitch. And I even told the guy, I was like, hey, you actually don't need to give me the spiel. Everything you're saying, I already know. And I'm way ahead of you. I want to do this. You don't have to sell me. You're already selling me past the close. So he hooked me up with the actual rep who works with the hosts, right? When you sign up with PadSplit, you become a host, aka landlord, if you will. And then from there, they work with you. They help you find the right markets for you to work in. And they have all of their metrics and their data that they've been collecting from all the properties. When you have a property, you tell them about it. They help work with you to make sure it's a good property, give you advice, hook you up with their vendor network in case you need any help, like finding a general contractor or property manager or whatever it is you need. Even realtors, like they even have their own marketplace for properties that other people, for whatever the reason, other people are selling PadSplits, or properties they flipped into PadSplits, they just don't want to run them. So they have, they're creating a great market for hosts on top of all the members that they work with to rent the rooms, because they do things for the members too. They even help with job finding for the members. So PadSplit offers a lot of stuff.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah, just for that. But you think that's it? No, they take it steps further than that. They handle all the parts of landlording I could not stand. I didn't want to have to deal with marketing. I didn't want to have to directly property manage and go deal with getting the
Right.
plumber in there to go fix the sink or the toilet or whatever happened. Go deal with this problem and that problem. Finding the people to rent the rooms. Like they handle, well, they don't handle the property management, but they handle all the marketing and handling the rent collection, dealing with tenant disputes, helping you deal with any tenant disputes that come up, and other issues like that. So they do all those things for you, and of course they take a piece of it, right? You know, they're not going to do that for free. And then if you want to property manage the rest of it yourself, feel free. But if you don't, they have property managers to hook you up with. If you need a contractor for something specific, they help you out with that. So they do a lot to really help you along, and on top of that, they give you the numbers. Like you manage the property, they give you all the metrics as to how your property is performing based on how things are, you know, all the rent being collected and all that stuff coming in. You know, if there's a room vacant, they help remarket it for you. They get someone in there in a couple of weeks usually. So your vacancy rates stay pretty low based on all the help that they're giving you. So is it great? I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like there's all these
Sounds amazing.
but let's talk about the other side of it too, right? Well, you know, it does cost money to operate these things, right? First, you got to buy the property, right? That's going to cost an amount. Let's say you pick up a property for 200. Let's forget, I know we're all PACES people, right? We all agree, right? We want to do creative finance, but for the sake of argument, let's
The
just say,
value of the properties.
You know, regular investments.
however we got it, it cost us 200K and probably, you know, rehab money on top of that. So however we got it, let's skip that part. And let's just say our PITI is something like it costs us $2,500 a month to just have the house, own it. And if we were doing a long-term rental, let's just say that's what it costs us, $2,500 a month. But let's say rents in the area are only about $1,800-$1,900 a month. You're going to be losing money on that, right? Like guaranteed. It's not an LTR, right? Can you flip it? Well, we're not talking about flips here, so skip that one, right? What's left? You have short-term and you have midterm. Right. Short term, we already discussed the laws are changing. It's becoming a bigger issue. So let's say that's not an option for us. Now we have midterm rental and we have pad split. Okay. If we consider midterm, we have to look at, you know, you go to Furnish Finder and some of the others to see like what's available. Maybe my property is nowhere near a hospital, for example, or just an area where you got a lot of folks who want just a 6-month rental or whatever. Or the people who don't have enough money to cover what it usually costs to rent it out at the midterm prices. So now we're back to pad split. With pad split, you know, the hard part is, well, first you had to get the property, then you had to rehab it specifically for a pad split. And there are issues with that if you're not aware of them as a new pad splitter, you're going to run into trouble, particularly if you're picking up, say, a DSCR loan to do the purchase and rehab, and then you need to flip that into a rental loan. Well, there's some things you need to know before you do things. And one pro tip that I learned recently about was, hey, and this actually came from a lender that does pad split lending. They actually said, hey, before you flip your loan into a rental loan, have the appraiser come in, but don't set up the property as a pad split before you convert the living room, before you convert the garage, right? Don't put the walls up for that. Don't put the doors in, right? Just have the appraiser come in for the flip on the loan so that they see it as whatever the house is. It's a 4 and 2. That's all they're seeing. They're seeing a 4 and 2, right? That way it gets appraised properly. And then you can flip it into a rental loan from there. If you have them come in and all they see is a long hallway with 8 doors in there, they're going to be like, what is this? Right. And then you're not going to get a good appraisal, and then you're not going to get your rental loan. So that is a, you know, a thing to watch out for. That's a gotcha. Right. And then just making sure you work with good general contractors who have done pad splits before. They know the routine, they know what to look out for, they know what to do, they know how to set up, you know, changing out the ventilation so that you don't build 2 extra rooms, but then there's no vents in there, so they can't get any HVAC, right? So there's like a lot of little things you learn along the way where if you don't ask questions and you don't meet other people, what do you not learn? You don't learn how to avoid these little pitfalls and problems up front. So those are just like little things on the front end, but then there's the cost of operation on top of that. It does cost more to operate a pad split, right? You have to deal with the vacancy rates because unlike a long-term rental, right, they're only moving in and out once a year, maybe longer. So it's a little easier to deal with there. But with pad splits, people are probably moving out every couple of months. Who knows,
Right.
right? It could be more, it could be less, right? It just depends how many rooms you got, depends how many people are in there and how long they're staying. So you have the cost of just the rooms being unrented. You've got to have house cleaning come in. Anytime there's move-in and move out, they got to clean that room. At least once a month or so, the kitchen and the bathrooms, they got to get cleaned. Somebody's got to handle the yard work, right? All these are little costs that add up for operating the property. You got to pay PadSplit. It averages about 14.75% to total up all of their costs. If you're not doing the property management yourself, you got to factor that in, right? That's usually 8%. And some of the property managers, from what I've learned recently, well, they actually do it by the room instead of 8%. So you got to consider what they do. Actually, I learned earlier this week, I was talking to Kent another community member. He's doing PadSplits as well. He told me, or actually he's got videos on his channel about PadSplits, and he says, hey, you gotta account for bookkeeping and legal in this, right? Because you want to be telling your partners, if you do PadSplits and you're like me, you're probably looking for capital partners to come in and provide the cash outlay for purchase, right? Well, you got to give them something to work with. You want to make the deal good for them too, but part of making the deal good for them means you gotta have a bookkeeper handling the books, and you can show them the numbers month to month, or the 10-year outlook on that, or whatever you want to do. There's always going to be some legal expenses. How much is dependent on how you're running your business. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not speaking to that. And then he pointed out another thing, although he didn't really say it, but I was thinking of this anyway. It's like, well, when you're scaling, right now, we're trying to do our best to close the first PadSplit for us. We've had a number come in and we put offers out, but for various reasons, you don't always get the offer accepted, or they don't close, or whatever. So we're still working on getting the first one. But let's say we're past our first one. Maybe we're on our 10th one. Maybe we're working our way towards 20th or 50th. Well, I don't have that much time to manage 50 assets all by myself. I got to be an asset manager, right? For now, but later I need to pay someone. So we should account for those kinds of costs when we do our breakdowns. And, bookkeeping, legal, asset management, at first I hadn't considered those, but when he pointed those out to me, when Kent pointed those out to me, I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. We should be accounting for that. We should be explaining that to our partners, that this is why we're paying for this stuff. This is why PadSplits costs a little more. So maybe now, if we go back, if the house already cost us $2,500 a month to run it, just to have it, and we factor in, say, probably about 30% more for PadSplits, I'm not going to do the math in that. Let's just say it's costing $3,500 now. I don't know, whatever that is. Right. Well, what does that mean? That means just to break even, the property now needs to produce $3,500 a month. Right. So these are the challenges with the PadSplit that you want to be paying attention to, or you want your asset manager to be paying attention to. If it's now going to cost me $3,500 a month just to own and operate this property as a PadSplit, I need to be making more than that. And Is it really worth it if I'm only making $3,500 a month? That depends on you. If you're just breaking even, that might be good for you, depending on what you're trying to do. But if I'm going to ask people, hey, you got $150K to put into this, here's what you get in return, they're not going to be happy with, I'm breaking even, right? Their equity alone is not going to do it for them. So with a PadSplit, do the math on the room rates. Like, for example, I'm going to grab my calculator because I'm not that fast in my head. But if I have 7 rooms and I charge only $150 a week, that's $1,050 a week times 4.3-ish for an average month. That's making $4,500 a month, which means that PadSplit is now generating just over $1,000 a month in revenue. Now, for a lot of PadSplitters that I've talked to, that's like a bare minimum for them. But a lot of them average $1,500 or even $2K a month. Some do better. Some properties do better. So there's a lot of ups and downs. And if you just know what you're looking for, you can do very, very well running a PadSplit. You can do very, very well running Airbnbs. Just talk to the community. There's a lot of folks doing well with that. MTR, same thing. So I know that was very long-winded, but
it was really informative. I'm learning a lot about it, and that makes sense as to why they provide all that support for you as well. They charge a higher fee, but they provide all that support so that you can be successful.
Yeah.
You touched on a lot of good points there too, Dave, as far as you know, a lot of people don't understand, or if you're new to it, the business side of it, right? That, I mean, if you're getting 20-30% of profitability out of a business, whatever business it is, you're probably doing somewhat decent, not 100% like some people think, right? And just really, just to drill down as much as possible on every cost that you have, what they break down to. If you were providing, again, I'm not as familiar with that part of it, but if you provide anything, you know, linens or anything like that for these places, you know, do you break all that down too? It's really good to remember all of that stuff and just kind of
that you actually, yeah, you just brought up an important extra step. It's like you have to furnish the bedrooms. You got to put a bed in there. You got to, you know, provide bedding, right? A small desk, maybe an extra fridge for that person, and a little bit of storage space, right? These are furnishing the property, extra costs, keeping the kitchen, you know, having some stuff in the kitchen and the bathrooms for them to use, extra costs, right? You're not running a hotel, but you want to make the place as comfortable as possible. So all of that factors into your cost, right? And exactly, like you're running a business, you're not running a charity, you're not just renting your house out to your friend because they're doing you a favor, right? That was my first landlord gig. I was renting but yeah, excellent points there. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, but like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the properties. I'm trying to work with my existing partners so that we can decide, are we funding it ourselves? Are we getting loans? How are we doing these? Are we bringing on other partners? Am I finding properties maybe my current partners don't want in, but maybe you two want in? I don't know. And I have to give you what you need to think that it's going to work for you, right? Because what I want to do is I want to say, hey, if you're interested in these, I want to work with you, right? I'll do all the work. I'll find the property. I'll get it ready. I'll deal with the rehab. I'll get it on PadSplit. I'll get it, you know, I'll handle all the asset management parts. I just need your help with bringing the money. But how do I make this deal work for you? How much value can I pack into this offer so that you want to do this? And then not just this, but 10 more, 20 more, 30 more with me, or just whatever, you know, whoever. It doesn't have to be with me. But I want to make the deal work for you. I want it to be something you want to do. And if I'm along for the ride, awesome. But yeah, like let's figure out how to solve a lot of problems. I want to, you know, obviously I want to solve my own problems, but really it's like, how do you get, you know, the properties you want to get? How do you get cash flow? How do you get equity? How do you get whatever it is you're trying to get out of real estate? How do I get some of that? How do we help solve that? Because, you know, it is important, right? I just, my own experiences renting, you know, apartments over the years, it's like, I know how bad it is for me and I can afford it. But then I look at just, you know, going to Los Angeles, right? It's like, how much does it cost to live there? It's so much. Like, let's help solve that problem, right? Like, PadSplit is one way to do it. Other people have other affordability housing solutions, and definitely like help them too, right? Let's tackle that one problem together if we can. And PadSplits are a way to do it while, you know, helping others, helping us, help you. And if everybody's getting a problem solved, I think that's a good thing. So that's where I'm at. And frankly, PadSplit is like the Pace Morby of PadSplit, right? Like they do the same thing. They're there to help. They're there to help. Of course, they're going to get something in return, but they are there to help. So
yeah, they provide a service. They're a big tool. They give you all these tools to be able to run it. And it's almost like saying, like, you go find the deal, you finance it, and we're kind of got your back for the rest of it. Sounds like so.
Yeah, it's like we're your partner with you, and that's that. You know, why did I join this community? Because I want a community. I want partners. I want people to do things with. I want to help solve other folks' problems. I want to provide that value to anyone where I can. What do I have to offer? It came up earlier this week when I was talking to someone. You know, they didn't even know like how to. I mean, I guess they work with PCS a little bit for getting their business going, but they don't really know how to do that. They don't know how to actually really start their business and run it. I have experience with that. So do some of my business partners. So we might help, you know, we might, well, actually, we already talked about it. We are going to come up with something to help people figure that out a little better. And I pointed out, you know, as well, I'm like, do you have a website? And they're like, no. I'm like, do you have an email address? Yeah, blah, 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 Gmail. I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. You know, do you have a Blink card, right? Do you have Calendly? Do you have this? Do you have that? I'm like, these are all little things you can do, many of them for free, that will help you, you know, not just look professional, but, you know, if you look the part, you be the part, you are the part, right? So I got Eagle Street up and running in a day, right? And that's just because I have the experience, right? I did web development and e-commerce. It didn't take me much to get that working. I just spent last weekend overhauling the website just to make it look more professional and more put together. So
Mhm.
like, this is what I mean. Those are some things I have to offer. Everybody's got something to offer. We're all one bigger, huge. I mean, I don't even know how big the community is now. It's over 10K, right? So
Right.
we're all big, huge communities. Let's just find ways to help each other. But in turn, let's also help the people we are, doing business with on the outside that they're not part of this community. The pad splitters that need a place to live, the just regular renters, the traveling nurses, people who just need more affordable housing, people who need assisted living. I'm meeting a lot of people doing that. And I think that is awesome. I'm like,
Right.
I can't believe there's so many people doing assisted living, right?
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a way to give back to the community,
right,
you
exactly.
know, and I mean, keeping people from being homeless. And in California, we see a lot of it, right?
Yeah, well, I
Right.
think any of these things,
And it's-
anything that people are doing or want to offer, it has to do what you're talking about right there. And pace and anybody else out there that is successful talks about it, and that's just solving problems, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's housing, whether it's affordability of housing, whether it's car sub too that they're trying to do right now, right? Get people more
Yeah,
vehicles.
Right.
Whatever it is, if you could find a problem or a problem and you figure out a way to solve it, like PadSplit has done,
Yeah.
and being a part of that, then you're
Yeah.
on to
Mhm.
and you have a good business there. So I
Yeah.
think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I mean, I just spent 10 minutes talking about it, but it's like, what can I do for you today? I don't want anything. Just tell me how I can help you, right? Like,
Hey, let's go.
Right.
Let's get on a PadSplit right
Let's
now.
get
We're
a
ready.
together. And I know you're
Yeah.
Let's
probably
buy the house and get some money for it.
it's funny that you say that. Like, we had a lead come in from a realtor in Phoenix. Literally, it came in Tuesday night. On Wednesday, we were trying to get in touch with the realtor because we already looked at it. We're like, hey, we think this could be a winner. And we just wanted to find out more about the deal to see if we could put in an offer. And we didn't hear, we didn't hear back until this morning. And he's like, I already sold it. I'm like, I knew that was a good one.
right.
It must be that kind of day because I looked at a house up in Big Bear here that I was gonna buy and I offered a lower price because it made sense. And they said, no, 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 no. And I looked this morning and they sold it a few days ago for the price that I offered.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna call this wholesaler. I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind here.
But I mean, it's like when a deal is out there, it's going to go quick. So I think we have to, channel our inner Pace Morby and look a little more creatively. Like, how do we take somebody else's dead deal, or how do we find something that doesn't look like a deal to anyone else and turn it into one? That's another benefit of MTRs and PadSplits, right? Right. You can say, well, this just, you can't flip this, you can't long-term rental this. I'm not going to live in the house. Is it useful for anything? It might be. It might be good for a pad split, even if it's not good for any of those things. You may have to pay full market rate for it, but because it will cash flow as a pad split, right? Until you do, I guess that's another skill I have to offer because people keep asking me about it, right? Until you do the comping and the underwriting, how do you really know? And I've been doing a lot of that lately, so I've been getting better and better at it. And let's do a pad split together. Right? That's all I'm saying.
Let's do it. And I know you're working on a spreadsheet that's going to break down all the costs.
Yeah,
Actually,
that was what slowed me down a lot this week. I've been building out that calculator more and more and more, and the underwriting is helping me doing that. And it's like I got the engine running now, and it's got all like a lot of the bells and whistles and the working parts for being an all-encompassing calculator that will help me underwrite any type of deal. But also I want it to, I make no guarantees as to where it ends up, but I'm trying to get it to basically be, I put in a few key pieces of information, and then it just magically spits out, here's what this property might be good for. It could be good for this, could be good for that. Here's the kind of loan you can get on it if you're going for whatever type of loan it might be. Here's how much cash you're going to have to put down. Like, ideally, that's what I want to get to with it, but it's not doing that just yet. And I haven't even done the presentation layer. It's like literally me with the hood open, standing over the engine, still like, using the wrench and doing stuff. And you'll look at that and be like, oh, he's doing something, but you have no idea what you're looking at. So I can't give it to anyone yet because no one can read it but me right now. But yes, that is the goal. And I will let people have it. Like, just, when it's ready enough, I will say, have at it. Like, have a look. Tell me what's wrong with it. Tell me where it doesn't quite work. Tell me if you think there's an error in there. Because I've got seriously, like, the calculations I got running in there I mean, I had AI helping me write some of them. They were so complex because I didn't even know how to write them. That's how weird this thing gets. But again,
Yeah,
I'm an
but that's
integrator. It's
just
what I do.
another way you're giving back, right? You're giving
Yeah.
back to the
Yeah,
community.
yeah. You know, that I've always been that way. I'm
For all of us.
It's huge. I mean, I like the quote of use what you got to get what you need to have what you want,
Yeah,
or somewhere
Yeah.
along those. You
Yeah.
have skills and all this experience like that, whatever you have, you know, you use it, you give
Right.
it, you share it. And
Right.
eventually you're gonna get what you want. PadSplits, properties, fundings, right? So I love the thought process, the way of thinking that way.
Well, how about this? I've done a majority of the talking. I'd like to save my voice if I can, but I'm a talker. I've outlined a few skills that I have, right? There's some things I have. I want to give that to the world. Anyone who needs help, let me know. Boom. You know, I'll do what I can for you. What are your skills? You know, how do we share each other's skills and benefit society with that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, 100%. Really quick before we go there though, HOAs, PadSplits. Yay, nay?
Oh yeah, HOAs. Part of my requirements, no HOAs. HOAs cause
Okay.
problems.
Let
Even
me
if
just
you're
write that down because that
Even
was
if
my
you're-
one,
I was, and then,
I-
and PadSplit also does insurance, right? They also offer you an umbrella. policy.
yeah, I did see that they were doing I don't know if it's through them directly or if it's just a vendor because they do support like they have lenders, but I think it's like one of the lenders are like directly connected to. But with HOAs, it's my general rule. I don't like HOAs. I just have seen them. I mean, just watch YouTube. There's so many videos of HOAs causing problems where there just doesn't need to be one, and so many of them are corrupt depending on where you are. Now Irvine, like this is like HOA nation here, right?
Oh,
Like
it is.
every community in Irvine is HOA, but there's so many rules in Irvine about that it's not bad. Like you can deal with it.
Right.
Yeah. But other places, it's horror story after horror story. But yeah, HOA, I'm against it, but that's just me.
I have a strict rule for no HOA for me personally as well. But I was wondering about PadSplit,
Right.
how that
With
applied to
PadSplit,
them.
yeah, PadSplit generally recommends against it from what they've told me, and I understand why. It's because HOAs tend to have rules, right? And if you're suddenly cramming 7 people into an HOA controlled property, someone in the association is going to notice, and then they're going to complain about it, and then you're going to have a problem.
There's gonna be a Karen peeking through the window.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be a Karen somewhere, or a Darren. I think they're the other one's
Karen
called.
and Darren.
Is
That's
it Karen and
funny.
Darren? I thought it was Kevin. I don't know.
I-
It's,
I don't
like
know. I don't know.
Darren.
Karen and Darren, yeah.
I was
Or Kat,
thinking whoever
whatever.
came up with that name and the kids that when they started, that was amazing.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
HOAs, I never liked them. I've actually almost bought a house with one personal house, and then even after the appraisal and everything, I'm like, you know what, we'll take the wipe, we'll wash out that appraisal and inspection fee. I don't care. I don't want to be in the HOA, but
Right.
personal preference. So
Yeah.
some people love them, but I can see how passable that I would think would be no
Uh-huh.
good. And who knows what's in those CC&Rs and those rules with those HOAs, right?
It
So
just gives them too much power.
yeah, it's
Even if you get a copy of the CCRs, they can just change the rules and you don't get a vote, you know?
yeah, just go get on every HOA committee and maybe you have a fighting chance, but probably not.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, with your experience in the mortgage industry, how does the PadSplit thing resonate with you?
You know, I love it. I heard about PadSplit a couple of years ago, actually, when I think it was just starting up, somebody was talking about it. And it sounds amazing. You touch on a lot of good points for lending purposes, right? Appraisal before you put all these walls in.
Mhm.
Now, in some cases, people get automated valuations and you want to need to get an appraiser in there, but that's nothing to rely on, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think it's great. You think about all the ways of financing these projects too, you know, just on the lending side of it. I'm a worst case scenario kind of guy because I like better case scenarios that come up later
Right.
on, right? So when you talk about it, you know, am I looking at, you know, working the numbers out? I'm sure you do it like, okay, here's what I'd be looking at on a private money deal or a hard money deal. And can I flip it into a conventional investment and all that kind of stuff, right? If you do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I think if the numbers work, that's my whole thing. If the
Right.
numbers work, if it makes sense, then what are you waiting for? But there's 2 things I look at for these kind of deals, any kind of deal for that matter, is the time and the profit, right? And obviously,
Mhm.
like real estate, we know there's like 3, 4 sometimes ROIs that you can get out of it, right?
Mhm.
So even like the break even, people are like, oh, but I'm going to wait for my 5 years, 18% equity or whatever's going to happen over 5 years, and my tax benefits and my pay downs.
Right.
But when you're just looking at the cash flow, and like Davey said, it like $1,000 might be the minimum for a lot of people, but the reason is the time that it takes to manage 7, 8 people in a house, right? That come and go every 1 to 3 or 4 months is important. So
Yeah. And to be clear about that, it's PadSplit manages the 7 or 8 people. But you still like I still need to manage the asset itself. I still have to talk to the property manager. I still have to make sure the vendors are doing what they're supposed to, the contractors, and that the landscaping's happening and whatever. I still have to work with the property manager and the contractors to do all that. Right. I got to talk to the bookkeeper, make sure that the books are looking good if my partners want something, right? So there's all those little things. And I guess one added bonus to that is because I guess you're on the lending side, it sounds like, right?
yeah.
Well, I tend to think I'm absolutely not a lender in the traditional mortgage sense. I mean, I'm doing some PML, right? But that's not the same thing. But I look at it like, look, I've been in tech a long time, and I can tell you a lot about tech projects. Assume everything is going to take longer and cost more, no matter
Right.
what, every
Always.
single time. Well, I know that the real estate industry is no different. So when somebody gives me a rehab budget of 50K, I assume it's at least 75. They tell me 3 months, I'm assuming 4 or 5 minimum, right?
Right.
Like I just assume it's going to go wrong.
Yes.
And I
Anything.
built that right on in.
Exactly. Rehab, moving, right? Like,
Oh,
oh, I'll be moved in a day.
Yeah.
3 days later, so like, I need
A
another
week
truck.
later.
well, and to answer your question that you had earlier about, what services and skill sets do we have, right? So as you were talking, I'm like, well, one of the skill sets I have would be that asset management and those relationships with all of the vendors and things like that. I have some experience with Airbnb and short-term rentals and such, but really by nature, I'm a connector and also like an organizer, right? I can go and organize your house, right? And so I could keep all those.
Well, I like that already.
But I can keep all those pieces in line and have those daily conversations with people and managing that asset, right? With the property management and all that, as well as furnishing and setting up all that stuff and keeping those checklists and everything in line.
That's awesome.
But as well, as Gator lender, working on building my credit. I'm still new, so still building the credit, but soon to have a very large credit line that will be burning a hole in my pocket and ready to be used. And PadSplits sounds very exciting to me because it's kind of like the new era of the Airbnb that I was used to, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's
another great platform that they built out.
It seems better.
Yeah.
It seems better. Because it's solving all the other issues and still providing the service and giving people some freedom to be able to move around.
You said, I mean, you just said it right there. It solves more problems than Airbnb, I think.
Yeah.
Airbnb was a luxury for most people,
Yeah.
right? I want to get, I mean, maybe it was a necessity during COVID. I got to get out of here, right?
People, it was really great. And stuff, better
Traveling
than hotels
nurses
and
and
stuff,
whatever, corporate.
but it solves more problems and it gives people freedom, right? So,
Yeah.
What is this? Yeah.
well, freedom to not be locked into one place either.
Yeah, not
I was
have-
talking to a friend today who's like, I'm never going to buy a house. I'm a renter for life, right?
Yeah.
He'd be a perfect candidate for that because he just wants to go around to different places.
Let's be that. The nomad.
The nomad,
The
but
nomad
not a van.
I've run into a bunch. There's a bunch of sub twos and gators that are doing that. They just they have an RV and they just go from park to park to park. Like they just don't stay anywhere very long. I'm like, that is awesome. I'm not gonna do that, but that is awesome. That's cool.
I said, when you guys are gonna plan it, I'll hook up the trailer right now. We'll get the Wi-Fi hooked up and we'll take a road trip.
Well, yeah, it's been a dream of mine for a long time. So I gotta wait till the kids are a little older.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to do.
And I'll just do it for 6 months, not like forever.
Not forever.
Yeah.
Take a quick, hit some good spots along the
Yeah,
way.
6 months is
Get it off the bucket list and,
Yeah.
and back.
Driving coast to coast all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great way to see the different areas and choose new markets.
No, and meet new
Right.
people.
Yes, and meet new
And
people.
find
of
more
course.
problems that you could fix and find bigger
Exactly.
problems that you could fix. And
Build out that giant community.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's right. We talked about that.
Yeah.
It's gotta come.
I mean, I mean, you're with a huge community that just does that, right? Like, I want to get in that RV and I want to go. I'm not one of them, but that's great. I just get on a plane and fly. I drove across the country. I want to do it again.
Right.
Because I'm from the
That's
East
right.
Coast, right? I'm from the East Coast, so I had to drive out here to get here.
Yeah, and let's just point out, I don't want to be the one driving the whole way.
Oh,
I could
yeah.
be passenger.
Well, you gotta wait for that new Tesla RV to come out that
It
just
drives
self-drives
itself.
it around the country,
That would
right?
be great.
So you sit in the back on your
Yeah.
computer and phone calls.
They can't even get the new Roadster or the Cybertruck out the door. So I don't know. It's going to be a while.
It's
What?
gonna be a while.
I thought the Cybertruck was on the road.
That is a
There's
horrible-
been sightings, hasn't
I
there?
don't know.
In Irvine or somewhere, I think.
Really?
This isn't about Tesla, but people are starting to say, like, it sounds like the Cybertruck just needs a ground up redesign at this point. Like, that's the struggle they're having with it.
I think I put my deposit like 5 years ago on
Did you
that
really
thing,
for
so
that?
I don't,
Okay.
Oh, are you trying to get one?
not anymore. I mean, it was 5 years ago when they were like, we're gonna come out with it next year, 4 years ago, whatever it was. It was so-
I mean, I have a Model 3. I love the thing. It's like best car I ever owned. Like, I couldn't see myself in a Cybertruck. Roadster I would get, but that's not out yet either. So it's gonna be a while.
I like the Rivian for the electric.
The truck or the SUV one?
Oh, the
Oh,
Rivian?
The truck,
Yeah.
I really like the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Please just don't get
I
one of
think
those
it's just better.
funky,
looking.
just don't get one of those funky paint jobs that they have, please. Like okay, so Rivian's located here in Irvine, right? Like
Yeah. Mhm.
and their truck, like I see their trucks all over the place, and I'm like, some of the people, like, what is with these paint jobs?
Right? They
like-
do have some weird colors.
Yeah, it's just wacky. But
We
I
need a
think
truck to move around supplies,
That's right.
all that fun stuff,
Managing
right?
pad splits.
Yeah,
is
pad
kinda-
splits going on all over the place.
Yeah,
Bring it
get yourself a Rivian, right? Because they have really good trucks. I've heard lots of good things about their powertrain. Like they really got a lot going for them. I
Oh, yeah.
don't know
they
much,
do.
but I mean, people are buying them. Like, seems like a good vehicle.
My favorite feature is where they, in between the bed and the cab,
Uh,
they have the pull out like camping area with the little stove and.
oh, do
the-
they?
oh,
Oh, like underneath, like on the
and no,
side?
like in the center, like between the back of the cab and then the truck bed.
Oh, okay.
Right, there's a little gap. You put your surfboard in there, or you could also have the
Cubby
kitchen.
for all your
It's
goodies.
the kitchen it pulls out.
I didn't know they had that, right?
Oh, that was a selling feature. I
Yeah.
mean, I was like, oh my God, I love it.
You know what? They better show up to the auto show in LA this year so that I can go check out their stuff. Like, I don't want to have to go to a showroom if I'm not buying, but
Right.
like I always go to the auto show. The wife and I always go to the auto show every year. So I hope they're there. That would be cool.
Very cool.
All
Very
right.
cool.
Well, guys, like we've been on like an
Yeah.
hour, and I certainly don't want to keep you. And unfortunately, I do have some things to get to.
Yeah, thank you so
Are there
much.
any parting questions or words? I do have a few minutes, so if there is one last thing, what would it be?
I just want to bring up one thing, like, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but let's get a pad split together.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'll share my leads. You show me all of your skills. I'll give
I-
you my skills, put some financing together, and we'll make it happen.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
my calculator's at least in good shape for me to use it for hunting as part of my hunting process in pad splits. So I'm on the hunt for pad splits right now. I'm looking on market at the moment because one of my partners brings in the off market leads. So when he brings those in, we look at those. But I'm just I'm on Privy every day right now, and I'm like, what do we got? What are we looking for? What do we have? What town are we in? So if you don't care that much about what market it is I'm looking at, I will certainly take my leads. And if you guys want in on that, let's go talk about that and figure something out, because I will
Yeah.
work with anyone who wants to do pad splits. We can all help each other. And again, we are, solving problems in the community, right? Like pad splits are a great way to help with the affordable housing situation across the board. So if I can have a small piece of helping with that, I'm on board. So if you guys want in, let's do something. Let's find some pad splits. Let's make this happen.
Exactly.
I need to learn the criteria so I can start looking as well.
You know what? My buy box on Eagle Street, it's right in my nav, so you can click the button.
Okay.
Buy box. That pretty much is set up for pad splits. It's also set up for flips, but I'm not finding too many flips right now, so I'm not doing them. But the buy box is set up for pad splits, and that's based on pad splits recommendations and also other pad splitters I've been talking to. it closely mirrors what other people do. So that I think like for you, if you're looking for criteria, just head over to eaglestreetventures.com and just click the buy box button, and that will give you a good point of reference as a starting point for what kind of criteria to look for, because it does matter. The last thing before we go, I will say this: C and D class neighborhoods are what you're looking for, right? You do not want an A or B class, and F classes are like war zones. So why would you want those?
Right.
But yeah, C and D class are ideal because mix of renters and mix of homeowners in there. And just keep the crime rates low if you can, and keep them near transit. My buy box kind of gives you some ideas about that. Also, the square footage of the property is also a good thing to be on the lookout for. If we're talking to 3 and 2, probably a minimum of 1,200 square feet, which is about average for newer homes in that in the 3 and 2 range. They seem to be built around 1,200 square feet anyway. And then for a 4 and 2, if you can find them, and there are lots of them, 1,700 square feet is a good starting point. Why do you want the square footage? More rooms in the house that you can add, right?
Right.
So,
No 2 bedrooms.
Right.
No 2 1s.
no 2 and 1s. That's not going to help you. PadSplit has a typical 5-bedroom minimum, and they will go down to 4 if it makes sense. But that's like, those are PadSplit's rules pretty much. But yeah, just some quick tips there at the end, so that anybody who actually watches this long gets something right at the end. But guys, I thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and talk with you today. Jared, it's a pleasure meeting you. I am looking forward to doing some deals together, particularly PadSplits. And certainly, if you need my help with anything, let me know. As soon as I get leads that I think would be good, I will send them your way, and we'll see what we can do with those. With that, thank you so much.
Anybody else who was watching, make sure you go to Eagle Street Ventures and check out his buy box and bring him some deals.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna say what is the best way to contact you, Dave, but
It's
I'm
right
guessing
there.
it's right there.
Oh yeah,
So-
yeah. So well, we're on Zoom, right? So you should be getting my name. Where is it? Like
Yep,
it's
we have that
Yes,
and your QR
up
code.
in your left corner for
Down
you.
there.
Yeah. So you have my name, my phone number, and then if you go that way, just hit the QR code. It's eaglestreetventures.com. That's my Blink card, so that will take you to all my info if you want it. And I'll, you know what, guys, I can give you the info for the YouTube description, just direct link to my website, and I'd appreciate that. Send me your info as well, so that I can put that on my YouTube video and reciprocate across the board. And then what was it? Oh, if you feel so inclined, and I will do this as well in Facebook on the groups, if you give me a shout out, I'd appreciate it, and I will do the same for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much for your time,
Pleasure.
Dave.
Thanks so much.
Great
And
meeting you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.